When? Yeah, Serenity wasn't chaotic last time she was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sucks to be you. He, with his good arm, he motions in front of him, where there are large mats set on the floor, and he bids the 5 of you to take a seat.
Yeah, I'll sit.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Drop down.
And he asks why you sought out the Watcher.
There is injustice being perpetrated on the streets of Sigil. And you know Ione, right?
He nods.
You remember her. She thought that if we sought out the Watcher and found him and got him to intervene, we could put a stop to it. And when we met him, it seemed that he wanted us almost to free him from where he was. It took some doing to get to him. But then he wouldn't come with us unless we made some amends with the person that he said we had wronged, which is you.
You sought out the Watcher to curtail injustice being meted out on the streets of Sigil. And
Absolutely.
You care nothing for the injustice you yourself meted out within Heart's Faith.
Right, once again points out she was found innocent on a trial board and served her sentence.
Korunu nods. The fact that you served a sentence means that you were found guilty. And let it be known that I personally feel responsible for those deaths. That is the worst kind of guilt. And at Kelian's scoff, he says, I would not expect you to understand.
And this is where Mahogany speaks up, and
Okay.
he's yelling. And he says, listen, nobody here is responsible for those deaths but me. It wasn't you or Kelian.
It was me too.
And Mahogany just, like, slices his hand. He's right. He's just like, no. It was my fault.
No, I understand what you mean. No, and I'm talking to Coroner here.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand what you mean because, in a way, I feel responsible for Mahogany. It was our job to keep him in check. And so when you say you feel responsible for someone else's crimes, I think, and I look at Serenity, I think we understand what you mean.
Serenity nods.
Korunu seems to regard that for a moment. He's not impressed with the answer, but you see that he buys it. And he says, you should know as well that I do not balance your guilt unjustly against the services you've done for this order. He looks at Kelian, and he says, when last we spoke, you know that you have my gratitude in addition to my scorn.
If I may, Kelian, I would just like to make one thing clear. What's going on in Sigil right now isn't just injustice. It's downright barbarism and evil. What the Mercy Killers and the Hardheads and the Takers have all done to the city is absolutely reprehensible in every possible way. So might not share your sense of justice, Korunu, but I am so appalled by it that I'm working with you completely impossible lawful types anyway to try and stop it.
It's not a problem that it's injustice. It's injustice on the part of the people that are supposed to be providing the justice. They're not doing what they're meant to.
And that's kind of why we sought out the Watcher.
The Watcher and Ione were helping us. But all that, I gather, is irrelevant to your larger point.
He says that he trusts Ione to do what is right by Sigil. That she came here for his counsel, and he gave it to her in good faith. That if she has turned to you for aid, that he doesn't believe that that request was ill-founded. You wouldn't have been his first choice, or his second, or his 18th.
Or his penultimate.
He says the reason that he allowed you back here, though, is you found the Watcher. It flabbergasts him. He's absolutely shocked. And I need to check my timeline here. Oh yeah, I have a timeline.
I didn't doubt it for a minute.
For the past almost 20 years, he's been in contact with the Watcher. He alone knows how to reach him. That you were able to get there by means without going through him demonstrates a failure on his part to guard the Watcher's secrets. He wants to know how you did it.
Well, I should caution that we weren't the first to find him.
Were we?
It's
No,
really strange.
because
We don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
I mean,
were-
we-
And
we were ferried there.
Kornu holds up his good hand, and he seems to understand where you're going with this. He says, since my friend's transformation, he has difficulty with the flow of time. He sees
Yeah, no
important
problem.
things, but cannot place them in order of cause and effect. I assure you, you are the first. Elsewise, I would have heard about it. We were told...
It's always the manifests. We, a group of people working against the prison, found that there was a bunch of food and water and stuff that just seemed to be going down a garbage chute.
Yeah. Paper trails. Gotta love them. They do good things.
He says he will have to redouble his efforts. And he says that the Watcher told him many years ago, before he went into, or just after he went into exile, that one day they would be freed by the rules of a game. And that's all the information he got. And he hasn't heard anything else about players or a game or anything of that nature until just very recently.
Yeah, I guess we never would have mentioned the whole thing with Aunt Nancy when we were here.
No, very pointedly, none of you brought it up because I remember asking.
Yeah. I guess we should tell him now, huh?
Yeah. No reason to keep secrets now.
So you don't leave... you lay it out for him?
We've told him the worst things we've done.
Basically.
This Aunt Nancy stuff's actually kind of tame.
Yeah.
Some of the things we did, he'll probably be a fan of.
Like
Yeah,
what?
that's true. We did
We
save
saved
a gun.
Osprey.
No, he doesn't
Yeah.
care about Osprey.
He's like, who? Well, hey, he knew Eric.
Yeah. I mean,
He is one of the few people. on
We
this
don't know
plane-
that.
We don't know
Rick could
that.
just be
No,
fucked.
no, but I'm saying, metagaming.
No, I'm saying metagaming. Brick is a fucker.
He wants us to think this is Daniel.
Or do I want you to think that I want you to think that?
You're a fucker. That's what I think.
McDohl, you
I don't
clearly...
know. I hate Death Note. Death Note is bullshit.
You clearly cannot drink from the glass in front of me. Kornu,
Just glass you.
he says that he doesn't understand exactly what's going on. He's hoping that you could shed more light on it, and it seems as though you have with this talk of a game. But he doesn't see how it pertains to him or to the Watcher. He doesn't understand that aspect of it yet.
well, like you said, he doesn't seem to see time as a straight line, more like a big old ball of something or other. And so maybe that's why. Maybe he's already seen it, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Time's a point, by the way.
I mean, unless you're gonna explain it with a vegetable analogy, it's not gonna make any sense. So.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Time is a P.
He says that if you were able to free them, what lengths would you be willing to go to?
Free you from what?
We already agreed to jump down a garbage suit that might lead to the place.
He says he knows you all to be more or less, and he says this with much reservation, but more or less good souls, but that you are also opportunists. He knows that you will not go where there's not wealth to be had, unless there's an opportunity to exploit. And he looks at Riot when he says this. He called her number earlier.
Yeah.
He says if you choose to undertake this mission, if you choose to be the players that are able to free us, there is no guarantee of reward. There is no guarantee of survival.
Free you from what?
As far as I'm concerned, we've already talked about the reward I'm getting. That's how this conversation started. With we know the Watcher can help us solve this injustice on the streets. I'll lay it in no uncertain terms. I hate the Mercy Killers, and if this is going to get us, if this is going to get Nylesia out of power, that's my reward.
And you put that to him just like that?
Yeah.
Okay. How does everybody else sit with the idea of there not being a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow?
Like I said, time's a point. You shouldn't be looking too far ahead.
Okay.
I am down for stopping the bullshit that the Mercy Killers are dealing with. Trivial bullshit in comparison to all the other terrible, terrible, terrible things that are going on in the underbelly of the city. And I'm down for anything like that.
Anything that hurts Rowan Darkwood is fine by Kelian.
Do you voice it like that, though? Is that what you tell Korunu?
Yeah.
Mahogany will be happy if the Mercy Killers either go back to the way they were or are replaced by someone who will.
Korunu explains that they are trapped by life. That for some reason, their mortality has been stripped away from them.
Well, that's no good.
Plural, including you?
He's speaking of him and the Watcher.
Sorry, nods.
No, Liberation explains that like that. No, that's terrible.
I mean, you would. You're a godsman, so
Yeah, exactly.
He says for a time, when this realization first began to hit them, it was seen as a boon. It was seen as a reward for great things that they had done. But as time wore on, the realization became heavier and heavier on them. And now, knowing that they both exceeded their natural lifespan, and knowing that the amount of good that they can do in the multiverse is severely limited, that whatever force continues to bind them here, he has come to see it as a malevolent force.
How long have you been around?
He says he... That's a tricky question, because time flows differently on different planes.
Yeah, but
give you a ballpark.
I'm asking what his perception is of how long he's been around.
He says it's been a little over 60 years since his previous resurrection.
His previous resurrection.
He explains how he fell in combat, and that his companions revived him through the grace of Bahamut. And that was a little over 60 years ago.
Shouldn't you go ask Bahamut then? Seems like the logical step.
We are. I'm not Celestia. This is his temple's not far from here.
I mean, we just came through his house.
And I'm assuming you have not tried to take your own life because that is an evil act.
He says, on the contrary, he has served his entire, or he has devoted his entire unnaturally long life to Bahamut's cause. That beseeching his god to end his life when he still has gifts to give would be an incredibly selfish request.
Okay.
Makes sense, I guess.
How long do dragons usually live?
Dragonborn have a life time
That's in character.
considerable to humans. He explains that.
How long do humans usually live? Is that the same as us, Mahogany?
I think like... God, see, I don't hang out with people that tend to live a long time.
Yeah.
Also, none of you are humans. So, like, what are humans? They're so weird.
In my experience, about 25 years.
So 60's going on fourth lap. Nice.
So,
And so
he again reiterates that if this is something you're going to undertake, that it will be an arduous task with no reward.
But you feel like it's what you're meant to do.
He says he feels like he has completed what he is meant to do in the multiverse. He feels like he's done a lifetime of goodness already. That the force that's holding him here is unnatural. It's holding him here beyond fulfilling his purpose. And he knows that Kelian feels the same way.
Mahogany nods then, and he says, then I'm willing to help you.
He said, when we were asking him who was it that we wronged, he said we wouldn't know you by the name he knew you by.
And would you
Does
like
he
to,
not know?
would you like
does he
to
not
guess
know
at
you
his
as Cornu?
response?
Yeah, sure.
No, he explains that he took the name Cornu when he joined the Plains Militant. But his given name is Daniel.
Warrenax.
Well, that's right. That'd be a hell of a twist.
Warrenax.
He explains that there are others like him. Like he and Kelian.
All
Who-
trapped by life.
Are bound by unnatural life. And he is reluctant to point you in their direction. Because while you are here sitting before him now, giving you sweet words about the greater good and what's to be done for Sigil, but he knows as soon as you leave this place, you will be left to your own designs. You're not bound by any oath he gives you. And to unleash such unpredictability on the quiet world that he and his companions hailed from would be a sin.
Liberation would object at that because because part of his personal outlook is that the cycle of life has to continue for people to find their most perfect harmony within themselves. So if there are people who are trapped like this, then that's anathema to his outlook. So no, he's willing to go all in on this.
Yeah, and with regards to how he can believe we're doing this, Mahogany says he has no interest in the greater good. He just... he thinks that he needs to help these people do what they're meant to do, and since... God, I can't remember his name except for Daniel now.
Cornu.
No, and since Cornu is saying that he's meant to move on, Mahogany's going to help him try to do that.
Okay. He asks if any of you have experience fighting in the Blood War.
Nope.
No.
That sounds interesting.
Not
Are you sure you're not
per
a sensei?
se.
Know that undertaking this task will involve going into the deepest depths of that war. You will...
Seems like not a lot of people you put the question to, have you had experience fighting the Blood War, would answer yes, because most of those people are dead.
He nods and says that's absolutely true. There are many of the Order that have fought in the Blood War, that have fought many battles in the Blood War, including our late friend Akazriel.
Oh, so you call him friend now.
Oh, he was always a personal friend. He was a traitor to the Order.
Okay.
That's the only reason we ever talked to this guy. It was because he's the only one who didn't hate Akazriel.
Yeah.
It was the leader of the Order that hated Akazriel.
Koranu says he served long before he joined the Order, long before he came to Mount Celestia. He served for the man that he knew as Captain Terran. That he and Terran fought side by side in the darkest parts of many worlds. That they overthrew evil regimes, that they brought light to dark places. And that these actions over the years wore on Terran more and more. And he knew that Daniel was always able to trace it back to a deal Terran had made with a devil. And that one day, as Daniel learned more and more about the nature of devils and their role as schemers and manipulators in the Blood War, that one day that devil would come to collect. That day finally came. Terran was collected and impressed into this devil's army. 3 of my companions attempted to free him. The man you met in Sigil, who you call the Watcher, was one of them. Another was a priest of your fish god, nodding at Riot. The last was a sharpshooter with unparalleled skill. And the 4 of us waded into the depths of Beator in hopes of releasing our captain. And he reaches over and touches his destroyed arm and says this is all he managed to take back.
You lost the 3 of them as well?
He shakes his head and said that they all survived. The other
Did they do
2...
anything but survive?
The other 2 retired to their home on the Prime Material Plane. And he says there were others in their inner circle. But by that point in time, by the time Terran was taken, the other 4 had all become, or the other 3 had all become lost to them. Engulfed by the multiverse in some way or another. The first to disappear was the dragon-blooded sorcerer.
Sounds about right.
Vanished without a trace.
That sounds about right.
Years later, the fat bard left on a journey and did not come back. And then some years after that, there was a... And he shakes his head with kind of a lack of understanding. Political turmoil in the city of Doors claimed the Tiefling. The whereabouts of all 4 of them I no longer know. But I know they're cursed with life as I am. And I know that the longer that we live, the longer that this persists, the less and less that will be connecting us to our humanity.
Dragon Anony.
So,
Daniel smites you.
what's the task you have for us? Are we to go and free your captain?
He says he doesn't know. He doesn't know what you'll have to do. That he has spent many years, he and Khalil both spent many years searching for their lost companions, searching for ways to free themselves. And at this point in time, they've essentially just resigned themselves to their fate. He doesn't know what you'll have to do, or where you'll have to go, what atrocities you'll see, what risks you'll take.
So you said that one of them. You said that one of them vanished in the City of Doors. Because I mean, if someone vanished in the City of Doors, I mean, they're probably still there, something, right? 'Cause, I mean, you can just blend into a crowd like crazy. Like I blend into a crowd like crazy, and look at me.
It seems to me that the City of Doors is the one place that you can't be certain that someone is still there.
He mentions, or concedes rather, that the City of Doors never really agreed with him. That you would know better than he does what the city is capable of. And he says that was true for most of his companions. Most of them didn't take to Sigil. Didn't spend a great deal of time there. The exceptions, he says, were the Bard and our Tiefling.
I have a question.
What is your question?
Do you think that, say, 50 years ago, or 60, or whenever, like, when's the last time you've left here?
You asked Daniel that?
Yeah.
Daniel, he goes into a little bit of his personal history. He joined the Plains Militant shortly after Terran vanished. Yeah. That was 30-ish years ago. But he didn't join as a high-ranking member. He worked his way up the ranks. So he's done a lot of field work within the Order. And part of why he earned a name for himself is because of, first of all, his devotion to Bahamut and the cause of the Order, but also because of his just outstanding martial prowess, even with this crippling disability. He fights better with one hand than most people in the Order fight with two.
So, why is it that you think you'll lose your humanity then? Because it seems to me that you haven't lost any of your drive, any of the things that define you.
He thanks you for the compliment. And he tells you that he owes that to Bahamut. He owes that to his devotion to a greater power. But not all of his companions had something to tie them like that. Firsthand, he knows that over the years, Kelian lost more and more of himself. To the point now, their correspondence, he's only a shadow of the man he once was.
So he wasn't always like that?
He shakes his head. He asks, or rather he tells you that a starting point may be to sit down, or to visit his two companions on the prime material plane. But again, he's very hesitant to give you the keys to that door, so to speak, for fear of what you might do with it.
We can always meet on a neutral ground. Like, I don't get the hang-up of I don't ever want to leave my home ever.
He says that most planners don't.
You also haven't told us how we can atone.
Yeah, that's right.
You've told us a very harrowing life story and very tragic one, but what is the atonement? That we get nothing out of it, and I understand all that, but what do we need to do?
He says that if you were to undertake this task and see he and his companions freed from these bonds of life, which means searching out the four that were lost, that, as far as he's concerned, would atone for any sins you've committed against him, the Order, or Mount Celestia.
But only as far as you're concerned.
Well, as far as he's concerned, is as far as the Watch is concerned, from what I can tell.
Yes.
Sure, but I more just meant, like, being able to come to Mount Celestia again.
Well, you're always able to come to Mount Celestia. The question is, why do you want to?
Mahogany doesn't like the idea of there being a place in the multiverse that he can't go.
Officially speaking, you're not in any like mortal danger going to Mount Celestia as long as you don't broadcast your crimes. Mahogany has not yet been tried in Heart's Faith. If Mahogany showed his face in Heart's Faith, it's like, hey, remember when I murdered all those people? He would probably be put on trial. So the irony here is you would have to live the lie in order to maintain good relations with the elements of Mount Celestia, because they won't perceive the truth.
Oh, Mahogany is all about treating different people differently so that they're able to come to terms with something.
There are definitely elements inside of, especially the Plains Militant, who probably would hunt you down, but for the time being, Khorne, who's granted you safe passage. So it probably wouldn't behoove you to piss him off.
I mean, Kelian's existence just does that anyway, so...
Can I ask you something that might sound callous?
Yeah.
Has anyone ever, like, made an attempt on your life? I mean, since the day that you came back from the Blood War.
He says that he has fought his way through countless life-threatening situations.
Well, what we're asking is, are you immortal, or are you unkillable?
He's not sure. He firmly believes there is something holding him here. Something that conspires to keep him alive. Any blow that should land and kill him would be turned aside by this malevolent force.
Huh.
Well, that might be an angle then. And Mahogany elaborates that this force that has protected you in the past didn't protect you when you were trying to free Terran.
He says he believes that that's why they all came back alive. Otherwise, they would have all been killed.
Sure, but then Mahogany gestures at his arm, but with a warning not to do that again.
And I take it the arm can't be healed with regeneration or anything along those lines?
He says he's elected not to. He wears it as a badge of his failure.
Oh, God.
It seems to me that whatever is trying to... No, he's big boss. We all get that. Or he's even worse. He's Kaz. I want to remember. But
that is worse.
I do have aviator sunglasses, so I am putting them on now.
But
let me ask. Sorry, go ahead.
It seems to me that could be related.
How so?
The fact that in every other battle he's taken forth that wasn't trying to rescue Terran, he hasn't lost anything, even though he's fighting with one arm. But when he was trying to rescue Terran, which he thinks might be tied into this whole staying alive thing, he got punished for it.
He says that he wouldn't put it past the hordes of Beator to conspire something like that. It's
okay, so we're going to need your enemies list to track down this malevolent force.
Yeah, so you said that your captain was taken to fight in the Blood War. Who took him?
He says that he doesn't know the Fiend's real name. That they knew it as Destin Locke.
Destin Locke.
He says that if he knew the Fiend's real name, he would have... It's rumored that he would have more power over him. That Terran signed away his service willingly, but did not know what he was signing at the time. It did not become apparent till much, much later what a grievous error that was, even though at the time it struck them as their most expedient course of action.
Would you call Terran reckless? I mean, this is a guy whose name is Destin Locke.
He says, what you should do is picture an onion. But yeah, he absolutely would describe Terran as reckless. That his recklessness was part of what drove Daniel further and further into his service. Because Terran's recklessness would get them in way over their heads in situations. For example, the Illithid Wars, where they had to fight their way out from underneath piles of corpses.
I can respect that.
He had a tendency for picking fights that were too big for him, and that they would win anyway.
I can respect that.
Yeah, it seems like we should meet this Terran.
Terran
Maybe
is a
recruit
mad.
him.
Terran sounds like a madman, honestly.
Me and Serenity are going to like, yeah, let's get this cipher.
Terran is the ultimate cipher.
Terran's
Level.
a terrible cipher.
That's true. He plans way too much.
Yeah.
Level with me, Daniel. The courtyard 6 or so ever months ago. Did you really want me to try and kill you?
He said that he was making an example out of you for the benefit of his underlings in the Order.
Yeah. I get that.
And he tells you that you don't have what it takes to kill him. Even if there was no supernatural force tying him down, you just don't have it in you.
Can't step to this dragon, man.
But he respects your confidence.
Confidence will get you a long way, I've found.
Kelian shrugs.
Okay.
There wasn't just a little part of you hoping that it would all come to an end finally.
He says he doesn't pray for death, if that's what you're asking.
No, of course not.
What?
Of course not.
Okay, so let's see here. So the idea is we're gonna have to track down your former comrades, the ones that haven't been, the ones that haven't made themselves forthcoming since this plague of immortality has stricken you all.
And he says that he might have some small aid he can give you in that regard. He knows portals back to the prime material plane. He's very reserved about telling you where this world is. He says he and his companions worked very hard for a very long time to make sure that their homeworlds benefited from links to the multiverse without exposing it to the darkest parts of it. And that all things considered, he still considers you guys to be pretty dark. They did have a curious pilgrim several months ago. This would have been not shortly, but sometime after you left, but before all this went down. He didn't think anything about it at the time, but they were very cagey about why they were here. They were old men, short, fat, round men with big beards. At first they thought they were dwarves, but he came to realize that they were polymorphed. They had taken the appearance of dwarves. That he conferred with the Watcher to determine what they were, and didn't get a clear answer, as is the Watcher's wont. He knows that they came here, they took a pilgrimage here from the plane of Limbo, which was very divisive amongst the members of the Order here. And they spoke, not at length, but some about a game they were playing. He says he didn't think anything about it until he received Riot's sending about being players. He says
How many of them were there?
There were 3.
As far as we can tell, players are usually in groups of 8, but we're not.
Well, I mean, we're not.
Yeah.
But they could have been leaving some behind.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got a sign or two.
I always leave the signer behind.
He says he could point you in their direction. And he's doing this to gauge whether or not you all are deserving of being given this key to the prime material plane that he's protecting. If there are more than one group of players, that he has a very, very grave decision to make between them. These people were extremely chaotic. They came from Limbo. They seemed very interested in discovering the inner secrets of the Order. He says he dined with them several times during their stay, and they asked a great many personal questions. And he answered them far beyond the point where he normally would with outsiders. He relayed to them the story of Terran and the Blood War, which surprised him afterwards. He believes they use some kind of magic to coax it out of him.
Huh.
These men were... They were called themselves the Al-Kayandak Order.
Al-Kayandak.
They are sages that collect knowledge from the furthest corners of the multiverse. I think they're playing the same game you are.
Did they mention anything about Aunt Nancy to you?
He shakes his head. They did not.
We know of teams, 4.
See, we know the
4 teams. Yeah, I think we established that last week.
yeah. We've got us. We've got the Middle Bob Company. We've got the
dead people.
Yeah, the dead people that we found at the
Sultry
bottom.
7.
The Sultry 7. There was one other name that I can't remember that we got asked about by the demons, but the demons is 4.
Duke Grandstarius.
Duke Grandstarius. It's 5. So the Al-Kayandak Order makes 6.
And then there's the demons themselves.
Well, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. We don't know that Duke Grandstarius isn't affiliated with this Al-Kayandak Order.
We also don't know the demons aren't the Al-Kayandak Order.
That's
We
true.
don't-
They were polymorphed, so...
And we don't know that
But-
they're not all just messing with us.
If they were devils, the chance of them making it this far
Yeah,
into
as
Mount
far as
Celestia
yeah.
are
Yeah, you're
minimal at best.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to assume that they're different. That they're a different team.
Well, we don't know that that team is comprised solely of devils. Could be 5 devils and 3 shapeshifters.
There's also supposedly a team of gods, now that I think about it.
What?
Oh,
Hmm?
Yeah, don't you remember? Aunt Nancy saying the challenge is the first challenge not to die was going to be harder on some teams than others because one of the teams was a team of gods.
I don't remember that. It must have slipped my mind at the time.
He probably didn't say gods. He probably said immortals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
so wait a minute.
Which would have
Are
counted
you
the
at-
devils.
Wait a minute. So wait, you just piped up with immortals. So does that mean that these guys are team men? Or that
No. Well,
Daniel?
at
No,
least
lots of.
I asked that. I asked the Watcher that straight out, and he said no. He wished he was. He
Oh.
was.
Okay.
Lots of planers are immortal.
Cornu says that he wants to believe you can help him. He also, if this other order are players like you are, and if it falls to him to beseech help from one of your groups, he would prefer you over them.
Can I ask
What's
why?
Because what scares him about the Al-Kayandaks is that the Watcher can't see them.
That's weird.
So, he wants you to make contact with them, determine who they are, what they're doing, whether or not they are allies or enemies, and if they are enemies, to eliminate them.
All right. Are you still in contact with the Watcher?
Constantly.
Okay.
Your
How do you
prize,
contact them?
your reward for investigating the Al-Kayandaks is he will give you the portal keys to the prime material plane. He will give you access to his other 2 companions who are back on the prime.
Okay.
You might find another Priest of Loss from Riot. Never thought you'd see that, aside from that little gear.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought I could count us all in one hand.
I
Well,
wonder what's wrong
one
with that
flipper.
guy that he's not the
There
High
were
Priest of Loss.
3 back at the gear, so I think you still could.
Right.
Almost. Just got to get an Acolyte or two.
Well, one of those weren't priests. One of them was just the Self Sword, wasn't it?
Yeah.
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 Screw
I
that
thought
guy.
there was a third priest dude, but you might
No.
be right.
Yeah, there was
It
two.
was,
No,
the,
there was
it was
two.
the orc. It was the orc.
The halfling and the orc, yeah.
And more so, I don't think they even knew of any other priests.
Okay, so after you've lost a couple of fingers, which in this line of work, give it a year.
He says he doesn't know how dangerous the situation he's sending you to. That he understands if you deem it unnecessary, and that if you decide to turn your backs, that there's no hard feelings, and that he will see you safely back to Sigil. Otherwise,
Well-
he doesn't know how deep the rabbit hole goes.
It seems that if
Well-
we're still in Aunt Nancy's game, then we need to find these guys out anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there will be hard feelings anyway, but
Yeah.
Plus,
It's
I'm
a
just
nice
curious.
He asks if one of the tenets of this game is to eliminate other players.
It hasn't been so far, but there are
Well-
teams doing it nonetheless.
Yeah. One of
To
the
be fair, one of the
teams-
tenets was stay alive. At one point, I don't know if that's still in the... I don't know how that works, so I'm not going to look over at Liberation. But
we never
one
got told
point-
yes. We never got told no. So I'm just going to proceed on the assumption that it is yes.
Okay.
Well, at one point, we asked if, since we were supposed to stay alive, that meant we were supposed to go out and attack other people. And we were told that we could do as we wanted. So we've actually done the opposite.
that's true.
that is true.
We have aided another team. In fact.
Yeah.
So the plan now is to make contact with these Alkayondaks then.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So I know this came up a couple times during Act 1. Is everybody wanted to go to Limbo at some point.
And then the only character with ties exploded.
Yeah, yep.
I did have...
Give us a stain
You even
on
gave us all these
exploded.
directions that we didn't bother to follow. I mean, even
Right.
if you
Yeah.
wanted to go to Limbo.
I did the germination for the Limbo adventure was done with LC Clone in mind. I've had to alter that somewhat. It's fine though. What other business do you have here at the Holdfast before you take your leave?
Kelian takes out the box
Okay.
and goes, I believe this was yours, or your Dragon Gods, I guess.
We don't want it.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Keelan's
it
done
was,
this.
it was on loan from Bahamut Horde.
Yeah.
Kelian just didn't give it back previously.
Yeah.
So you're, you're relinquishing the box over to him?
Yeah. He doesn't need this anymore. He doesn't
Are
want
we
to.
finally done with the box?
He says he will safely see it put back in Bahamut's Horde.
I think we were all too scared to use it.
What's the worst that could happen? All right, so we're going to take a quick little break for some snaglins. 15 minutes. So what I want you guys to think about during the 15 minutes is we're going to do some preparation for an adventure in Limbo. The rules of Limbo are... There are no rules in Limbo. Yeah, Limbo is a place where basically anything goes unless it doesn't, in which case it doesn't go.
Is there anyone here that we can find out anything about Limbo from?
Well, you guys have no shortage of wealth and resources and influences to tap, so when we come back, we'll go back to Sigil, and I will let you guys do what you're going to do to find out what you're going to find out. So yeah, let's reconvene in 15 minutes. That will be at 4:50. Get your snaglins and whatever, and we will put Elizabeth on screen here.
All right. Be right back.
And we'll see you guys in just a few.
Okay.